as many people probably know, FutureBrand is a company, one of the leader company in Italy for branding. So we are specialized into creating the platform for making brands live in the future. We say that we like to create a brand who are future-proof because creating something that can stand for the future is really our ambition. But by creating a brand should talk. The brand should talk through different and multiple expression. And one of those expressions is the physical expression. And that's why a few years ago, FutureBrand decided to partner with experts within the area of environment, because environment is not just retail, but environment can be also an office or a fair. And we decided to partner with Uxus. Uxus and FutureBrand are today one company that can offer an enlarged experience on how to positioning a brand for the future in expressing correctly with a strong connection with people. And that's why I really wanted to be together with Queenie today. Queenie and I work together on many projects, and I will leave it to her to give you a little bit more details on what Uxus really do, because together we can really manage to project our brands in the future, the brands that we of course take care of.
Yes, thank you. Please, Queenie, tell us something about you. So, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ale. So, Uxus, and maybe that's a particular name for people who don't know us, but Uxus, it stands for You times Us. We very much believe in the collaborative power of people, and that it's, although we are a consultancy, you see, it's brand to life. And as Ale explained, we joined the FutureBrand group in 2013. Because we wanted to be part and really create this whole holistic approach from brand creation, brand architecture, and bringing it into like a spatial expression. So we were looking to partner with a branding agency with a very strategic approach, because like at Uxus, everything with us starts with the why, the customer journey. So we have done a lot of successful projects together that starts from a total brand creation to really creating a total brand and to the final destination of a physical store, but also rebrand exercises that we also help our existing client brands and really transforming in the ever-changing world with the consumer. So our client roster goes from Chanel to McDonald's, because we really believe that the customer journey and that way of thinking applies for every brand out there nowadays who wants to be relevant.
Very interesting. And Queenie, shall I ask you, where is Uxus based?
Our home office is in Amsterdam, and the founders were, one was American, one was French-British, and Amsterdam, I think, if you guys had the opportunity to visit, is a super multicultural city, and we're a team of around 40 people, but I have the luck to lead a team with over 20 nationalities. So again, the You times Us aspect is very much brought to life with the people that I work with, because also, again, all the cultural insight also means that we also really can create powerful experiences that speak to all the consumers wherever in the world as well. So based in Amsterdam, but we work on a global project level, like with FutureBrand and with Ale. So nowadays, I think even post-COVID, you can work your project from your home, from the office, and pretty much everywhere in the world.
From the seaside or from Naples, where I am right now.
Alessandra, don't say that, we are jealous.
Well, it's funny because it's for the first time that I came back home after 30 years almost that I left my original town. And being back is something that gives me the opportunity to experience my city in a totally new way, with a new totally vibe. And it's interesting what Queenie was saying, because it's very true. The multicultural environment is what really makes the difference. And even at FutureBrand Milan, we are very keen in not having just Italian people. But it's it for the sake of it, but it's really because we believe that different nationalities, different cultures can bring value, or actually brings value, and brings value to our community as well as to the work that we deliver on a daily basis. So it is very, very important, and it is very important the collaboration that we have with you as a school, as a master, because it gives us access to talents from all over the world, and so we can have the opportunity to get in contact with them. So that's really good.
Very good. Listen, before I leave it to my wonderful Masterbrand students that are here willing to ask you questions, we have a very first major question. Brand experience in retail. Everybody's talking about it. Is the digital revolution really started, in your opinion?
I started and I hand it over to Queenie. It is really interesting, this question, Elena. Thank you for starting off with this one. Because before the pandemic, what we have been seeing is that the generation Z was actually preferring the physical spaces. And this was because they have the need to engage with brands. And then we go back to brands and the role that brands should have in people's lives. However, with this pandemic, of course, there was the necessity to build up something different. And this was the occasion for the digital platform, the e-commerce, to grow differently and to try to offer a new experience. But of course, what really guides those experience is the ability for us as consultants, experts of brands, or specifically into retailer as Queenie, to really listen to what consumers are looking for. And for us, this is always the starting point, looking around, looking for new trends, understanding what really people want. And what they want is not just the purchase, because the purchase is something that you can really do cross-platforms, or into physical and then going into digital. So there is a new way of looking at the entire customer journey, and this is what we are experiencing. That I guess that what really makes the difference from one brand to another one, or from one customer journey to another one, is the experience that you are going to have with that brand. And with this one, I will leave it to Queenie, because I think that she can give you a little bit more details into it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I agree absolutely with Ale. I think to really say if the revolution has started, I think this is something that has been happening for a while. I do think the physical presence is super important, even pre-COVID. Our company has been helping clients also when we design spaces. It's not about the fixture, it's an all-encompassing environment, how to bring your brand to life. And that also includes your staff, making them brand ambassadors. Does digital have a big role? Yes, it does. But I think nowadays you also have to be very careful how to implement digital. And that's something we've been always saying. When the iPad was introduced, okay, everybody wanted to have an iPad in the store, but nothing is worse than technology that doesn't work in store. I think most of the people agree when you go into a store, you want to experience, and that's not always with a digital device. However, COVID has also amplified online shopping, and I think also for the older generation who wasn't used to online shopping, they were forced to really deal with this. So I think there's also like a big uptick that when we are going to design our future stores, that you can expand on more of the digital touch points. Nowadays, a lot of people can rule the world with their mobile phone, so let's be playful how to offer that. So at the moment, I think post-COVID, a lot of questions that my clients are asking us, like, okay, what's happening with retail? Will retail still be important? Yes. Will digital overtake it? I don't think so. If you look at like all the countries in the world where they're opening up, or when they're not able to open up, people cannot wait to visit a store, visit a restaurant. Digital still remains quite transactional as a purchase, but nevertheless, I think on digital there's also a lot of progression that we're now seeing, that people are really creating experience in the digital world, in the virtual world. I think Avatar, Days Eat Games, and I can give you more examples of that, but I think the revolution has been happening for quite a while, and everything has just been accelerated due to the pandemic.
Yeah, so the point is that if we have to sum up, the revolution started quite a while, but now it's definitely accelerated. Yeah, I got the point. Thank you. Shall I leave it now to Ferdinand, that he had a few questions for you? Ferdinand, do you want to take it over from me, please? And tell you who you are, please, what you do. Ferdinand.
Hello. My name is Ferdinand. I'm from Germany, 24 years old. First of all, thank you very much for taking time today. I actually had two questions. The one you already answered, because it was about the role of digital media and the communication after COVID. So I'm going to skip this one. But I actually had a question about regarding to getting to know our consumers, since the online privacy is becoming more important for many users and sharing their habits and everything. And I just read an article that Apple is about to provide their customers with more options to stay private. Do you think this could get or could be a problem for us to collect data about our consumers or target group, or do you think we could manage to find a way around this data privacy?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, data is the new currency. I think privacy is the new currency, and of course we have to remain very respectful with all the privacy rules, but in a way that it's going to be hard to escape it. There will always be ways to find like your online presence. Nowadays we are leaving such a major digital footprint. With every safety cautious that we put in place, there will be other items that will be created in order to circumstance it. And I think nowadays people willingly, unwillingly are providing data. And I think the example of Apple in the US providing that more in place is an example. I think the GDPR rules here in Europe were implemented 3 years ago as a protection to consumers. There was nothing really in the US for that. And I think Apple, what was it, like 4% immediately on the first day were already activating to opt out to sharing their details. But I'm sure that there's still items. There were discussions about Alexa, how much the information was picking up, and you can see the boundary of people allowing technology in their lives to facilitate is coming to a price that you will have to provide data. It's almost looking at a Black Mirror episode. Ale, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that you are totally right. And I think that our life is now in the hands of course, big players. We need to be careful in the way we treat data. So this is something that, of course, the law is doing with all the regulation that are in place. But by signing any of the platform, we are actually giving the permission to this data. I guess what is going to happen in the future is more about how respectful we would be in using those data. So at the end of the day, it's very, very important to try to commit in an ethical way. And ethics should be the way you are going to deal with this data and managing those data in a way that is correct. Also to try to protect different targets, younger targets. So this is what is important to me. It's like I know that there's a company behind that is really taking care of it in the right way. So I don't see any issue in our work, in our daily work for the future. I see that would be the need of taking care of it. This is for sure.
I think some of our clients already are asking when we design stores or spaces how to build in the experience where they can collect data. And like we always have to abide with like each of the regulation of each law, but for them, they can then steer more of the offering per touch point. So I think, yes, it is all about data, and it will become even a more critical point the more that we move into the future.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Ferdinand.
Thank you. Shall I leave it to you, Raimondo? Do you have some question for our guests? And please introduce yourself, Raimondo.
Yes, I do. I have a question. My name is Raimondo. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Sicily, Catania, and nice to meet you, Alessandra Iovinella.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm curious about trends contextualized in the COVID-19 scenarios, because we know that COVID-19 has and had a huge impact on consumers' food habits and consumptions. And one of the most relevant trends regarding the food market is the consumption of peculiar food with specific nutritional values in order to support and protect the immune system. And when I say peculiar food, there's a reason behind, because I want to talk, for example, about Crunchy Critters, a successful British food firm that sells ready-to-eat edible bugs. So when do you think then the functional dimensions of those activities, such as eating bugs and insects, to support your immune system or to have a valid alternative to normal and classic meat, will be tolerated and accepted by very eradicated food cultures such as the Italian one?
That's a very, very interesting question, Matteo. Raimondo, sorry. And FUTUREBRAND, I don't know if you've seen it, but we launched a couple of months ago a research report that we did is specialized into focusing into food. And one of the trends that were analyzed was exactly this one. So how far we can go by offering something that is totally, let's say, different from the current habits into food, the pleasure of the food, the ingredients that you use on a daily basis for creating different meals. And there are many things happening. So this is one of those, but there are also others where you are going to simply eat by having a pin in your hands, and you're going to get all the elements that you need. How far and how quick this will take place and replace current habits, I frankly do not have the crystal ball in front of me, but I can see coming. Also because there are already other cultures where you normally on a daily basis eat other things. Italy is one of those countries where the food culture is quite conservative. We have also a very strong heritage in the kitchen that also differs from region to region, because there are many differences in the way we cook ingredients in Italy. So it might be that would be a country where it's becoming, it won't be as speed as in others, but I do believe that they will arise, and where new generation are keen in experimenting new things, they may be the one who make those trends available to a larger piece of the population.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But then at the same time, I thought about the morphological dimension and aspect of this, because I don't know if we think about the kebab phenomena. Kebab at the end is like something very similar to a piadina with meat, with pork meat inside.
Yeah.
So if we're considering the morphological dimension, bugs and insects, how much are we going to accept this? Even considering like only the visual approach. I mean, only this. What do you think about this?
Again, there are already many animals that you can eat in other countries. If you go to China, there are bugs that you already eat. There are other insects that you already eat, and people eat it as a standard we could eat spaghetti. So really, it depends on the culture. And because these days, the world to me is so open to new experiences. People are traveling more than ever. Of course, not now during the pandemic. But this means that you are open to experience more and to accept more and to try more and to overcome even mental boundaries, because I guess that this is also goes back to something that maybe you are totally not used to and you feel that might be not even good, and while actually it is good. So it's like eating frogs. Frogs apparently are delicious. I never tried it. It's something that in Italy you eat, and it's part of the high cuisine, and people really enjoy it. So I don't see the difference between bugs and frogs. I guess really it depends on how open you would accept new things that are coming, and also proposed under different shapes and form as a snack, or by adding something else that gives you a sense of not eating a proper bug.
I think also, and I completely agree with Ale, I think it's a mind shift. I think a lot of people are now, they care about like the bigger picture, the value. So it is like vegans, meat replacement, all of that. It's a wider discussion. I think if 10 years ago you would say, okay, in certain countries that would be like that the dairy would be reduced, the meat intake would reduce, even like in really traditional countries like meat eating countries, people will say like, really think so? Do you think the vegan trend will sustain? Is it not something like currently just a hype and it's overtaking? And my roots are in China. We don't really see the difference in terms of bugs. And that's the other side, where maybe Italy is quite conservative. The Asians are very much known to be very experiential because of the health issue. And if they say like, hey, it is healthy, people tend to try it. I mean, there are conspiracy theories. We don't even know the roots of like COVID-19, but it all started that people are eating animals that they maybe shouldn't be eating, and that also became normal because of the health aspect. So it can shift. Things that are awkward in one culture can overtake very, very quickly.
Thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. Thanks a lot for your answer.
Thank you.
Grazie a te, Raimundo. Matteo, hi. Do you have any question for our guests? Can you talk?
Coming.
Because he's recording, I think not. So shall I leave it to Fernanda for the time being? Fernanda, do you have any question for our guests?
Actually, I was thinking with everything that was said, from like the data situation, the big data situation, into the cultural situation that Raimundo was also talking about. I was thinking maybe, so the future of the brands, maybe we're gonna have to be more removed from trends or things that really people can or not accept, in a sense of eating bugs. That is not something really big in some cultures, but more of like having to focus more and more on causes and movements, and really have like a strong positioning or a strong reasoning behind whatever they do. So maybe you could sell anything, even bugs, for people who are not really accustomed into the idea, but if you have a very strong reasoning behind it or very strong position behind it. So I was thinking maybe this is going to be like in a more extended future, the path for every brand. Maybe a brand that doesn't have it won't be able to survive in the long run. Like if they don't have a really strong like cause or positioning about something, like they are not passionate or they not really like behind something very strongly. You know, if they just sell products and if they just go behind trends and like researching what people are buying now and interested in now, like they will have to look like beyond that in the future, maybe like way beyond that.
That's a very interesting question, Fernanda. I'm sure that you are familiar with the word purpose. And purpose is actually what's behind what you are referring to. So it's the dream, it's the ambition that a brand, a company has. And it shouldn't be just referred to margin or profit. It should be something bigger. It should be something that really relates to people, onto what you can do as a brand for improving people's life. And the most powerful purpose are the ones that belong to those companies who are actually able to engage strongly with consumers. If I think of companies such as Nike or Patagonia, these are brands who are able to really go deep dive into what is the real essence of life and how they can play in the different fields of action, in their different fields of industry they play with, because one is sport and the other one is the outdoor and the exports of the mountain. But they are both try to really make a point of view, taking a position, taking a role that these days is also, I would say, missing in our daily life. So what is happening is we are seeing a shift from the idea of giving your trust to a politician to actually to a company, to a brand. And this is because their purpose is stronger, it is really powerful. If we think of what Patagonia does, even telling you, okay, you know what, you can bring your own gear to our store, so we're going to amend it instead of making you buy a new one. This is really a strong action to demonstrate their purpose of taking care of the planet, of really do anything to protect our planet. So it goes beyond, and they are able to have a role in the society, and this role is a stronger role because it's a role that has a reputation. It's a role that can take two parts, one against the other. It is really important for brands to speak up. And Nike did it very well, even in like important movements like the Black Lives Matter. So it was really acting as they were people, offering a point of view which are strong point of view. And so when you are choosing that brand, you are actually making an action of faith. It's like you are demonstrating your trust to that brand. I don't know, Queenie, if you want to add something more, because this is really what we normally discuss when then what this means in concrete, when then you have to realize the trust within a store or in an experience that you are going to build up.
Yeah, exactly. It's the anchor. The consumer nowadays are incredibly smart. There is so much choice out there, and they are looking for a sense of belonging. They're looking for a community. They're looking for shared values. And the consumer are extremely powerful as well. So they make their choice, and they're right to be critical. So the brands need to not just talk. They have to walk the talk. You cannot just create empty promises. And the examples that Ale is giving are brands, they stand by it. But you've also seen brands the past year with the major shifts and the movements are happening who didn't respond quickly enough. And you can see how quickly that backfires on social media. The consumers are so powerful nowadays. So brands, they need to really have a meaningful purpose and really deliver that on every brand expression, from the brand that is created on advertising, on printed, on commercials, on everything, from the staff engagement. So I do think the message that you were saying, that the brand purpose and the meaning behind the brand is what is driving brands forward.
Thank you, Queenie and Alessandra. Shall I jump in, because it's super interesting tonight, and the subject is really quite relevant every day. I have a major question mark in my head, actually. Now we are talking about the trends, new habits, and things that are already happening nowadays. But we are facing, after the pandemic, probably a global crisis. You know that, unfortunately, in some countries we will be in troubles, and consumers will be in troubles, and their purchase power definitely will be weaker, because if they have less money and the economical situation will be in danger, they will be, and people will be in troubles. How do you think the retail and the digital market that we're talking about will shape according to this? Because probably consumption will be decreasing. So what do you think about, from your current observatory global, what do you think is going to happen?
I think, yes, of course, we're all affected in financially, the crisis in each of the areas. But I think in terms of the brands who respond to that, again, the consumers have the power to choose, and people will continue to buy. And you also see a shift in terms of what people want to buy. People are very much health focused, they're value focused, and where maybe a few years back the luxury products were for general public, like the average would be a car purchase, that type of money is being shifted to other sectors. So I think mainstream, if you look at now in Europe, you can still see a lot of push of the economy really on the consumer level. So I think it's going to be very interesting in a year's time what will happen. I also believe when we're allowed to travel again, that market is also going to pick up incredibly. Like a lot of our hotel clients are also making now initial thinking vision pieces of what the future hotel, future airport needs to look like. I think you would be surprised how things are picking up. If you look at China, things have been moving along also while we were recovering in the West off COVID. The economy has picked up. Most amazing department store real estate has been coming off the ground and launched into end of 2020 and also now. So it's interesting. Ale, what do you think?
Alessandra,
you're still on mute.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry for that. I was saying, I guess that the shift, and I totally agree with what Queenie was saying. At the same time, most probably we are going to see a couple of silos. So you will have still people to consume, but with a deeper awareness of the consumption. And deeper awareness will bring also a selection of even more premium and quality products. So you can either decide to go very, very high or stay in the middle. I guess what we have been seeing these days is that the middle, the products that are sitting in the middle are going to be the ones suffering the most, where what is going to make the difference, it is really the purpose behind that company, but also the quality of the product of those companies. So this would make the difference because, like Queenie was saying before, clients, consumers are becoming smarter and smarter and smarter. They want to know everything about every single product, where it's produced, what is behind, which are the ingredients inside, which is the channel of production. So I was built really. It has been defined in one country and produced in another one, or it was defined and produced in that country. What is the origin behind? They are interested in knowing everything about the product. And this is even truer in some industry, like for instance the food industry. So we are observing everything from, let's say, a privilege point of view, because the opportunity we have to work with completely different clients and industry gives us the advantage of seeing different things at the same time. And it is true that we will experiencing a crisis, because this is something that worldwide the financial people are stating. But at the same time, there's also the will of people to go back to something that is truly true. And the authentic part of the consumption, of the buying within a store or digitally, it should really meet your needs. It's going to be a more satisfactory. Whatever you're going to buy, it will really satisfy better your needs.
Thank you for the answer, guys. If you have any question, please raise your hand and push the button at the bottom of your screen, and so I can let you talk. Rong, do you have questions for our guests? Maybe.
Yes, I have one. Hello, my name is Rong. I come from China, and I'm 28 years old. I have a question about country branding. And so we all know that based on this COVID context, country branding has such related with tourism, so which means it have a really tough time, obviously. But I want to know if there is still some opportunity for this in term, like for country branding.
Well, this is a specialization of FUTUREBRAND, thinking about country branding, where tourism is just one of the parameters that we normally look as one of the key parameters, I would say, because it's what gives an immediate recognizability to a country, but it's not the only one. Because the research that we normally do in terms of country branding try to put together all the elements that represent the country. So the quality of life, the ability of a country to do business locally or internationally. It's about, again, offering experiences that are interesting experience under touristic point of view, where tourism could look for experiences into, simply the nature or the artistic part, or the culinary part. it should be, let's say, an overall experience, and all these parameters all together are representing the way we are going to look at the success of the country. And in the latest release that we done, for instance, if I look at Italy lost positions. And the reason behind them was probably because one of the elements that were not taken into consideration, or were taken into consideration but in a negative way, or was impacted negatively in the perception of the country, was the politics. So I guess that in a COVID situation or post-COVID situation, countries have the opportunity to try to reshuffle themselves and try to really refocus on what is the nature, the DNA of their country, and try to re-understanding how to attract new clients and new consumers for both, again, business-wise as well as touristic. So I'm very interested in knowing what is going to happen. If I think of China, for instance, and all what did happen with the pandemic, where, of course, there had been a moment where everyone was thinking that China did it on purpose. This, of course, I'm very curious to see how impacted on the reputation of China. What this means, how China should reply and should put in place action to make people understanding that this was not the case. So it would be really interesting to see the shift that we are going to see in the next edition that will come in a couple of years' time, in a year and a half time. Just because it would be really, really interesting to see how countries will react. And also it's the occasion to reestablish yourself better.
Ale, question for you. Will this year's country index, will it consider like COVID response? Has that been also been part integrated?
Yes, it will be. The first part that we did, because the edition that we launched was done during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But we were just in the middle of pandemic, especially in Europe, because we did most of the interviews when we were all locked down. But it is interesting to me to see the next edition, because of course pandemic will last for at least, I would say, the entire year. So it would be interesting to see what is going to happen next year, because at the very beginning the pandemic was underestimated. People didn't really understand what was happening and how this would have impact overall on the global economy.
Sure, I think the entire world was still traveling in the early days of 2020 when like China was already locked up, naively thinking, oh, it will just stay there in Asia.
Yeah.
Thank you for your answering.
I don't know, Ron, if we replied to your question or you would like to have more details about it.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's appreciate. Thank you.
Very welcome.
And thank you, Ron, for the question. Guys, do you have any other questions? Do you want to push your gray button? Because otherwise I have so many in my mind that I don't want to. Anyway, Alessandra, quindi there's another major point, because we are working on several projects in our school, and then it comes to a point that retail is involved there. And working mainly on the Generation Z target, so basically people that are in the room tonight, actually, we always come to a point where retail, to be winning, let's say, should really deliver a very good service. Let's say that service is really become one of the milestones for the new generations. But the big question mark again is here, and I don't know if you have any kind of answers or experiences you want to share. Now, in a digital era, how can really a brand leverage on service, not only in the physical experience, but also in the digital experience? Do you have any best cases or examples to share with us?
I think the human aspect plays always a very important role. Digital. I think in the end, when people buy something, they want to connect with the brand, with the person who stands for it. And I think COVID, with all the services and the limitations going to a physical store, also pushed it forward. I think simple examples like going to a local shop. I keep going to the same person because they would personally WhatsApp me if something would come in. I mean, that's not like a high technical technology here, but again, it's a person remembering something that I wanted to have and then really telling them on a personal level, and it's not an email blast. So I think service models are incredibly important. We've been developing service models from Shell to L'Occitane to Sephora to really increase the engagement level in the store longer, to really also increase the basket size, and that's all due to why going to a store? But that doesn't mean you cannot integrate it with a digital experience. For Sephora, we created these little hubs in the store itself where you could have tutorials how to apply makeup, and that was something that
Queenie, sorry, Queenie, you were cut off. Can you just repeat the last part?
Oh, I'm sorry. For Sephora, for instance, it was an integrated digital experience in the store where we had screens telling how consumers could apply makeup tutorials, but you also would have staff members also reinforcing and also giving live tips. And I think it's always a blend, and you cannot really exclude one of the other. But I think the people aspect will play a very dominant role. I don't think we are ready yet to have a full-on digital experience.
And it's interesting, for instance, if I can add to this, maybe the people that are living in Milan till today are familiar with the latest opening of the Feltrinelli store that we took care of. And what is interesting is that the initial briefing that actually Queenie and I together had to reply to was how to conquer the new generation to enter bookstores. Because what is important and meaningful is the experience that you do within the physical retail rather than just buying a book on a digital platform that could be either Amazon or, IBS in Italy. So what was interesting for us in designing the concept was really understanding services and experiences within that space that could be interesting and attractive for a younger audience. So, and when we come up with the concept that actually still have the hero at the center, and the hero is the book. And the hero is the book because Feltrinelli stands for culture. So, and again, we go back to what is the role a brand should have on a market. What is the deep meaning that brand should express to really engage with consumers. But then that meaning should also apply differently according to the different target audience, because you need to create a new relationship. It needs to connect differently. So services, like you said, Elena, but also a way of proposing products differently could be a new way of engaging with new solutions, with new way that might be even quicker with the target audience that wants to have everything now. So it is interesting to see that actually since the new Feltrinelli bookstore opened up, it's always full of people. So the experience that they are doing in this bookstore that is still very full of books the previous one because it's more open and gives you the opportunity to people to experience more of the space. And what is interesting about combining physical and digital, it's also the idea that, for instance, Feltrinelli has to have all the book assistants, so the people that are inside the bookstore, and they suggest you which book to read or which book to buy or which book to buy for a present. They put it on digital screens, so you can have access actually to the book assistants from all over Italy. And this is, funnily enough, something that works really, really well because people are using it. They want to hear the voice. And I go back to what Queenie was saying, human touch. It is very, very important. We cannot think of something that is just digital because you do not have the passion behind, and the passion comes through people. And so the human relationship is what really makes the difference in a new experience that you are going to design, either for Generation Z, but also for the other generation.
Yeah. Thank you, Alessandra and Queenie. Guys, if we don't have any other question, I have a final one that is, I know it's a terrible question, but I need Queenie and Alessandra to give me an answer because I was quite surprised. Last week, I was talking to a very important real estate company, and we were talking about big shopping malls, what we call in Italy commercial center, centri commerciali. Anyway, big shopping malls. In the last decades, I would say, this kind of huge, enormous, large shopping mall experiences were really, they were very successful on one side, and they were becoming a new destination for people, let's say middle low target, spending most of their weekend in this kind of buildings and structures. Nowadays, the world is definitely changing, and all these big, huge, sometimes scary piece of architectures are empty. And this company I was talking to told me, we think and we foresee that in the next future, we need really to close them up and sometimes even to destroy them because they are not actual, current, and responding to any need anymore. Do you agree on this? Or do you think these huge places, if they change in terms of experience, they can really be relevant again and back to be appreciated by consumers or not? What's your opinion overall on a global scale on this market and places?
Yeah, super interesting question. And again, I think you already highlighted the key answer. I think, what happens if you inject experience? And there is definitely a decline in department stores or really big mall centers, but at the same time, 2 weeks ago here in Holland, the biggest shopping mall opened up by Westfield. It's called the Mall of the Netherlands. It's huge, and we developed like experience in terms of like food courts, a new way of experiencing a ever revolving pop-up food court. So you need to really draw the people in. Another great case study is that opened last year in the pandemic year is SKP Mall in Beijing. And they created art installations in a full-on department stores, which was curated by the wonderful Korean brand Gentle Monsters. It has AR, it has cloning devices. It creates such a long linger time. And when you look, I would really recommend you guys looking this up on internet. This is almost if you're visiting a museum, and then on top of it, you have merchandise of the most beautiful brands displayed there. So is there a place for it to convert? There is, but it really requires an investment that is breaking the pattern of how shopping malls were behaving before. But the same thing applies when I think about, do the consumers want to have the same flagship experience in every major city? No, and that's why you would see the Nike experience in New York being different than in Shanghai, the Starbucks experience in Milan being different than in New York. People want to have localization. They want to see something different. They do not want to have the cookie cutter experience, because that can be honestly be done on a digital transactional level. So a lot of the brands will need to reassess how they will spend their capex in terms of delivering the experience. And I think that's also for the biggest real estate moguls, how to really enforce when they build this property that there's a level of experience that is purely coming from the shopping mall and not only injected by the brands.
Thank you.
Well,
Alessandra.
I totally agree, Queenie. I think that I couldn't say in a better words. I guess that experience will make the difference if we want to keep alive those places, because you need to give people a reason to go. But if brands are going to be good in giving these reasons, people will continue to go in this shopping cathedral, because this is the way in the world they're called. So it really depends on how good and how different you can offer different experiences to consumers. And also they can be also different from one location to another one. You can have, I don't know, again, if I think of a sports brand, if they have a bigger space, they can almost create like Nike does in Nike Town, create spaces that reproduce, I don't know, fields of football or volleyball or tennis courts, so that you can really live as if you were an athlete. So you can either build up an experience that is more down to earth or more transactional within a city, and then at the same time giving a reason to go and visit a different store that has a different size and a different experience to consumers.
Got it. Grazie, Alessandra. Thank you. We are absolutely sharp on time, despite we are Italian. Queenie, do you see? We are trying to surprise you.
I'm telling you, the merge of different cultures brings the best out of all of us.
Very good insight. And first of all, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, and it was really a pleasure to meet Queenie and to talk again with Alessandra. It's really great learning for everybody. And if it's possible, and we're gonna be back digital and less, but the physical part and less the digital one. So when we go back to school, we really would love to meet you up, and it's an open invite for next month to host you in our school and proceed with the conversation. So thanks very much, but it's just an arrivederci. It's not definitely a goodbye.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you really for the invite. Thanks a lot. It has been a real pleasure to be with you tonight. And with all you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the wonderful questions, and I really enjoyed this session very much. And I definitely take you on the offer to meet you guys in person.
Thank you very much. So for everyone that is here, thank you for the question and for being with us. But most of all, let's see and let's catch up next Tuesday with next appointment with Masterbrand Stories. So thanks everybody. Grazie FutureBrand. Thank you Queenie. Thanks everybody. Grazie mille.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye guys.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.